farm workers who come to Australia under the new agriculture visa could be offered a path to citizenship, according to Barnaby Joyce. Under the Deputy Prime Minister's plan, workers from 10 Asian countries, including Indonesia, Vietnam and Thailand, could become fully fledged Australians to help bolster the population and grow it in rural and regional areas. For more on this, I'm joined from Melbourne by the President of the Victorian Farmers Federation, Emma Germano. Emma, great to have you back on the show. What do you think of Barnaby's idea?
Good evening, Peter. Look, whilst we're probably big fans of having permanent pathways, we certainly don't want to see it as part of the agriculture visa that has largely been, we've been asking for it for years. There was quite a bit of reticence in the National Party around permanent pathways. So we just want to make sure that the visas are fit for purpose and they do what they're supposed to do. So whilst we're in favour of permanent pathways, that's not really what the ag visa was designed to do.
In that you're concerned that if you have this debate, it's going to hold up this agriculture visa?
Well, absolutely, and it certainly looks like it's going to turn into a political football already. So the ag visa announcement was something that kind of took us by shock despite asking for it for some time. And I mean, it doesn't seem like too far of a stretch to think that there's a bit of argy-bargy going on within the coalition right now. And Barnaby's probably adding some fuel to that fire by talking about permanent pathways within that agriculture visa.
You are a very, very savvy head of the VFF if you've picked all of that up. Just on the visa, when is it going to land? When will you have it available?
Well, this is the other thing. So they were saying 1st of September and, there's not a lot of detail available to us at this point in time. So whether or not we actually get people on the ground, I mean, despite the fact that we don't even have quarantine pathways for them at this point in time, by September remains to be seen. But we're really going to be holding the coalition to account on this. It's not the first time that they announced an ag visa and then retracted. So what we want to ensure is that we actually get a visa that's going to bring some workers into the country for the purpose of working in agriculture. You've got to be really careful what bait you use as to what type of fish that you catch. We really want people who are coming here to do that work with no other incentive kind of attached to it, just to ensure that they're the right workers and they actually really want to be working in ag.
That's a very good point, because once they're out in their country and the farmers relying them to pick the horticulture product or whatever it might be, if they've come here thinking they're going to have a visa outcome and be living in downtown Sydney or Melbourne, it's not going to end well.
Absolutely, and we've seen that with other visa streams and things like the 88 days attached to the working holiday maker visa. It leads to all sorts of unintended consequences. So whilst we would always be supportive of permanent pathways, we would prefer to see that happen through skilled migration. And we also need to actually have a migration strategy across the nation rather than this ad hoc approach to, what do we do and how do we quickly change visas, like we saw the Northern Australia visa for working holiday makers change with no consultation last week. And we're saying get these things right, design them correctly as part of a wider framework as to what we're going to do, because we definitely need the population. We're seeing the downfall in prices in lots of different agricultural commodities at the moment, purely because we just don't have the mouths to feed, that we've got this net migration that's actually negative at the moment. So we definitely want people into the country. We definitely need workers, but we just don't want to see things politicised for the sake of political point scoring when it's something that's just so vital to our industry, and we've been asking for it for a really long time. And likewise, we don't want it to interrupt the Pacific scheme that we've got going on, the seasonal worker program. We need to ensure that we don't end up with one visa that's preferable to the other visa, because we know that it's not just about having those workers come in, but it's also about geopolitical relations in regards to our relationship with China and ensuring that we keep the integrity of those schemes for all the different reasons that they're actually developed.
Look, I grew up in the country as you did, and all my family bar one are still living in the country, and I know a lot of country pubs, clubs, cellar doors, wineries that could be making money hand over fist just can't get the workers. I know a pub on the Bellarine that's supposed to open 7 days a week can only afford to open 4 days a week. I guess the challenge is if you've got this visa category coming in, you say December, give me a sense of how many numbers we're talking about there. But if they've just cut hotel quarantine places around the country by 50%, and we've got 35,000 Aussies trying to get home, how on earth are you going to be able to process all of these additional farm workers and still meet this December deadline?
Look, it seems largely impossible at this point in time. So the ag visa, despite the fact that politicians like to make announcements that sound good at that exact moment, it's got to be a medium-term solution. It's probably going to still be very difficult for us here coming into harvest over the summer period. And like you said, when they start opening up visas for different reasons, people want to work on farms last. They'd certainly, if they're going to be out in the regions, prefer to work in the pubs that you're talking about that are screaming for workers also. So, and then we've got this critical shortage of accommodation at the same point. So we need a holistic solution, and we need policymakers to actually think about it from a holistic perspective rather than just, oh, doesn't it sound great to offer permanent pathway in the ag visa? It's like, no, let's do what we're doing, make sure that it's right, make sure it fits in with everything else, rather just making announcements willy-nilly when, like you just said, we're cutting quarantine pathways into the country. So it's going to be very difficult for us to get these workers in when we're competing with other type of people that need to be coming in and into quarantine in Australia.
Well, I can't argue with that common sense. Emma Germano, thank you for your time.
Thanks.